The Fever should have won this game. They should have came out of this game with a victory. I don't know what Stephanie White's doing exactly. I don't have a clue. Again, I don't know what the identity of this team is.
I mean this when I say this. Fire Stephanie White yesterday. Like, fire her yesterday.
There's some tension brewing in Indiana, and it's not good. Clark's shooting is cold, her team's identity is colder, and the championship window Indiana built around her, it's closing faster than anyone expected. But before you blame Clark, you need to see what's really going on behind the scenes. Some are saying, fire Stephanie White. That's the conversation exploding across social media right now.
Not that Stephanie White is a bad basketball coach. It's not that Stephanie White is a bad motivational speaker. It's not that Stephanie White has done a bad job defending her players. It's not any of that. It's that Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark fundamentally have different understandings of the sport of basketball.
And before you roll your eyes, ask yourself this. Is she actually the right coach for Caitlin Clark? Because right now, some say that it sure doesn't look like it.
I have to say, I saw the same type of energy from Caitlin Clark that I have been seeing from her, or actually maybe just from the last game, but I saw her definitely having in the last game. And that was kind of a little deflated, kind of under baseline energy levels. She wasn't like really talking to anybody on the court. She wasn't showing much emotion. And this is, that is where Caitlin Clark shows all of her emotion.
Caitlin Clark was supposed to be the WNBA's savior, the generational talent who would revive a franchise, transform a league, and lead Indiana to playoff glory. But instead, she's playing like a shadow of herself, limping through offensive sets, visibly frustrated, and getting knocked to the floor night after night, while her coach offers excuses from the sidelines. And here's what makes it even worse. This collapse isn't just about bad shooting or tough defenders. No, it's the result of a broken system, a passive coaching approach, and a complete failure to adapt to the player you're supposed to be building around.
Yeah, I think the little things, we've kind of just shot ourselves in the leg consistently doing that. We turn the ball over, we foul a lot. Those are just easy points for them. I don't know how many points they had at the free throw line tonight, but I think they had 18 off of our turnovers, and that mostly falls on me. That falls on me as our point guard. I think I have to really get us into stuff, especially in the fourth quarter. We didn't do a good job of taking care of the ball. I didn't. So I think just starts with me and just getting better in that.
This isn't just a slump. It's a full-on meltdown. People are demanding answers, and it's getting pretty ugly. Before we get into the slump going on in Indiana, like and subscribe for daily uploads. Now, let's get into it.
Caitlin Clark is, let me just check, she is 1 for her last 17 shots from three-point range. And I uttered this earlier because it was something we saw right before she missed 5 games. Right before she missed 5 games, she was struggling from long range.
The numbers are brutal, and they don't need exaggeration. Caitlin Clark just went 1 for 10 from three-point range against the Las Vegas Aces. Combine that with her previous performance against Golden State, and she's now 1 for 17 from deep over her last 2 games. That's not a cold streak. That's a full-blown freeze. And when you factor in 7 out of 20 shooting overall with 8 turnovers, just in the Aces game alone, it paints a picture of a star player completely out of rhythm.
I think they had 18 off of our turnovers, and that mostly falls on me. That falls on me as our point guard. I think I have to really get us into stuff, especially in the fourth quarter. We didn't do a good job of taking care of the ball. I didn't. So I think just starts with me and just getting better in that. And
on the surface, her box score doesn't look terrible. She still dropped 19 points and 11 assists. To the untrained eye, those numbers might suggest she's fine. But anyone who actually watched the game could see the reality. She's forcing shots, second-guessing her passes, and playing visibly frustrated. And you could feel it in her post-game body language. She wasn't expressive. She wasn't vocal. That spark, the edge that made her electric at Iowa, just wasn't there.
Now, that energy from Caitlin Clark is very different. It feels like everybody on this team, I don't know, Dewana Bonner has been in her head. I think that it's showing that Caitlin Clark is in her head, and she's 23 years old, and she has the weight of the success of the WNBA on her shoulders. And, the Connecticut Sun game was very intense, so we can't assume that it didn't exactly have an effect on her, but there is definitely something going on. I know she's also been coughing a lot, for a while, actually. So, all I would be saying are assumptions here, but the energy level that Caitlin Clark is exuding is a little worrisome. I mean, it could just be she lost 2 games in a row and she seems pretty...
Instead, Clark looked isolated on the court, disconnected from the rhythm, and eerily quiet. The most telling part? She owned the blame. She said it starts with her, and she's not wrong. But the real question is, why is it starting to fall apart in the first place?
And I don't know if this is Stephanie White channeling her inner Christy sides. This was an issue last year. It's an issue this year. Caitlin Clark is benign in the fourth quarter. And them not trying to figure out a way to get her looks in the fourth is a total failure.
Because no player goes ice cold overnight, not without something bigger going on behind the scenes. But that's just the tip of the iceberg.
I think the biggest thing is what we have to do as a staff to get her better looks, like higher quality looks. Every game plan is going to be to make her score inside the 3-point line, right? And the different ways that they're going to do that. Physicality, coverage, showing bodies, all the different things. And, we have to do a better job of getting her higher quality looks.
After another ugly loss, what does Stephanie White do? She points fingers, just not at herself. Instead of addressing why the offense is sputtering or why her best player looks more like a role player in her own system, White took the podium and said this: "The biggest thing is what we as a staff have to do to get her better looks, higher quality looks." Better looks? Let's be honest, Clark is getting open shots. She's getting spacing. The issue isn't opportunity, it's structure, it's rhythm, it's fit. And when your coach is out here talking about showing bodies and how opponents are physical inside the 3-point line, it feels less like strategy and more like a stall tactic.
What Stephanie White wants to do will not work. And by the way, I'm not saying what Stephanie White wants to do is won't work in general. Won't work in general. Because it has worked. She's had success. But I'm saying what Stephanie White wants to do will not work for this team specifically. And let's take a listen to what Caitlin Clark said. And she essentially exposed that Stephanie White wants them to play slow.
I thought at times we could have played a little bit faster, and I think that's on me, not conceding in that. We still got to play up tempo. We still got to
It's on me not conceding.
Play fast. But I thought for the most part we did a lot of stuff that coach wanted us to do, and that wasn't why we lost.
It's like, oh, what the coach wanted us to do wasn't why we lost. I'm conceding. I was conceding by not playing fast. What is she saying? Like, this is the most damning thing I've heard Caitlin Clark say. This is the most damning thing I've heard Caitlin Clark. She didn't even say this about Christy Sides. This is damning. She's saying that she needs to stop conceding and play fast, and that doing what the coach wanted them to do was not why they lost. She said that unprovoked. That is one of the most wild things.
Every coach in the league knows Clark's going to be swarmed. The good ones adjust for it. White? She just keeps reading from the same script. She continued saying, every game plan is going to be to make her score inside the 3-point line, and we have to do a better job of getting her higher quality looks. But here's the problem. She's had an entire year to do that. Clark isn't a rookie anymore. The tape is out. Defenders have adjusted, and yet the Fever's playbook looks exactly the same. No wrinkles, no counterpunches, no innovation. Meanwhile, Clark is left dribbling into double teams and launching desperation threes. And when a coach shifts the blame to vague phrases like, we've got to do a better job, it usually means they don't have a real answer. But it gets worse. Because the system she's defending might be the very thing sabotaging.
I think I have figured out the solution to the Indiana Fever's problems. Hear me out, hear me out, hear me out. This is what we got to do. We got to put Caitlin Clark off ball. We need to run a motion offense. So when the defense takes away what Caitlin Clark does best, we have other players that can still perform. So when she does have bad games, we're not completely dead in the water. I think that is the best way to move forward with this Indiana Fever team. Wait, what'd you say? Wait, what? Did you just tell me that Stephanie White went on an interview tour this whole entire offseason saying exactly that? Did you just tell me Stephanie White went on an So how come when Caitlin Clark has a bad game, this team looks like absolute dog shit? How come when Caitlin Clark isn't busy backpacking this team, it looks like absolute dog shit?
Let's talk about this infamous motion offense that Stephanie White refuses to let go of. In theory, it's supposed to create ball movement, open looks, and team chemistry. And here's the problem. Clark isn't a motion player. She thrives in transition, pick and roll sets, and with the ball in her hands where she can read the floor, manipulate defenders, and punish mismatches. That's how she broke records in college. That's how she dropped triple doubles in the pros. But in Stephanie White's offense, she's being turned into a piece of a puzzle she was never meant to fit. She's a once-in-a-generation playmaker, and instead of designing an offense around her strengths, White is forcing her into the same blueprint she'd use for any other player.
That was a tough watch. That was a tough watch. The Indiana Fever lose to the Las Vegas Aces 89-81, running bullshit Stephanie White offense. Let's call a spade a spade. The Indiana Fever lost 89-81, running bullshit Stephanie White offense.
Fans are noticing, and worst of all, opposing teams are exploiting it. They know where she'll be. They know how the play will unfold. There's no unpredictability, no innovation, just repetition and failure. The result? Clark's rhythm is broken, her confidence is slipping, and her numbers are plummeting. But the real danger isn't just what this system does to her performance, it's what it's doing to her body. And that's where things start getting dangerous.
But her long-range shot struggled right before they pulled her out for 5 games. And I said, is that quad injury giving Caitlin problems again? God, I hope not. I hope not.
If you've been watching closely, it's not just Caitlin Clark's shooting that's off. It's her body language, her energy, and even her movement on the court. And there's a reason for that. Remember that quad injury earlier in the season? It kept her sidelined, and she hasn't looked the same since. Her first step is slower. She's not getting the same lift on her jumper. And when you combine that with the way she's being targeted night after night, it's clear she's not playing at 100%. Opposing teams have figured it out. Rough her up, wear her down, frustrate her early, and it's working.
8 turnovers for Caitlin Clark. Forcing the ball to AB. Forcing it to AB because Stephanie White's in her fucking ear. Chirp, 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 chirp. Sit down and let these ladies play basketball. Sit down and let these ladies play basketball. Because more games like this team's going nowhere. Nowhere fast if they continue to play like this.
This isn't just basketball anymore, this is survival. And what has her coach done to protect her? Nothing. Ever since that infamous game against the Connecticut Sun where she got poked in the eye and thrown to the floor, her play has spiraled. Her three-point percentage tanked, her aggression dipped, and the spark, that signature edge, she looked dulled. You can't blame her. She's 23 years old, carrying the weight of the entire WNBA on her back, getting beaten up every game, and trying to adapt to a system that plays against every instinct she's ever had as a player. But what really exposes the disconnect between Clark and her coach, it's not just what happens on the court, it's what happens when Stephanie White disappears.
Becky Hammon makes in-game adjustments. Stephanie White makes arms crossed to arms folded adjustments. Last game, I blamed the players. You heard me. Blame the players. I have no problem blaming the players. This game, arms crossed McGraw.
A coach who vanishes when everything starts falling apart. While Caitlin Clark has been taking cheap shots, battling through injury, and dragging her team through losses, Stephanie White has missed multiple games this season due to personal reasons. And while no one's questioning the validity of personal time, the timing couldn't have been worse. The Fever have been in free fall. Their star player is clearly not herself. The team's identity is unraveling, and the one person who's supposed to lead them through the storm isn't even on the bench. Leadership matters, especially during adversity. But instead of standing tall beside her team and finding answers, White left assistant coach Austin Kelly to speak on the issues. So let's get this straight. The league is intentionally targeting your franchise player, she's nursing an injury, and she's visibly exhausted. And yet, there's no game plan to protect her. But all of this, the missed games, the vague excuses, the lack of accountability, it all leads to one damning truth. This team doesn't have a leader right now, and without one, even the most talented roster in the world can collapse.
I don't even think I saw anything that resembled an Indiana Fever team that I enjoyed watching. From last year, from some games this year, I didn't see any of that transpire at all throughout this game.
But here's the thing, it's not just Clark who's being failed by the system, it's the entire team. You don't get many chances like this in professional sports. When a generational star like Caitlin Clark lands in your lap, you don't just build a team, you build a legacy. This isn't just a slump, it's not just growing pains. What we're witnessing is a complete organizational failure from the top down.
You want to see the Caitlin Clark exaggeration effect? This is it right here. This is it. Look at this, folks. I mean, seriously, lined up outside the visitors' arena for this game.
Caitlin Clark is not a normal rookie. She's a generational talent, a game changer, the kind of player who brings millions of new eyes to your league, sells out arenas across the country, and puts your franchise back on the map. And what has Indiana done with that? They've shoved her into a system that dulls her brilliance. They've let her get battered every night without consistent protection. They've let a coach who's clearly overwhelmed and out of ideas run the show unchecked. This team should be contending, not collapsing. And they should be building a dynasty, not burning their hopes of making the playoffs. At the end of the day, the Fever don't have a talent problem. They have a coaching problem. And until that changes, this team isn't going anywhere. Caitlin Clark deserves more. The fans deserve more. And frankly, the WNBA deserves more. Because if you squander a talent like this, if you lose her fire, her confidence, or worse, her trust, you don't just lose games, you lose everything. So here's the question Indiana has to answer before it's too late. Are you going to waste the greatest gift your franchise has ever received? Or are you finally going to wake up and build something worthy of her? Because the clock's ticking, and right now, that window is closing fast. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe and let us know in the comments what you think is going down in Indiana.